Hello, everybody. I just filmed this whole video once and there's no sound, so welcome to my voiceover. This is day one of building the terracotta warrior. At the end of the day, we're going to have this body built. It's kind of a basic cylinder shape. And then we're also going to have that head started. We're not going to finish it. So that's what we're going to have at the end of today. So I'm getting my workspace ready here. Notice that I have a piece of cardboard down so that none of my clay sticks to my tabletop as I'm working. So this is a sample of the project that I have done before. Again, we're looking at the body and realizing, okay, that's like a cylinder shape. So we're going to use a slab to make the body. It's super similar to some of the other projects we've done where we've rolled out a slab and turned it into a cylinder, like this textured tripod, or even we did the darted cup, where it started as a slab, we rolled it up, attached it. Those same steps are what's going to start us with the body. So we're going to need a big rectangular slab. That's our first step. I've got my clay here. I always tend to go with more clay than I think I need rather than less, just because I'd rather have too much and be able to trim it down. It's a total pain if you make a slab that's way too small and then you have to redo it and add more clay. So I like to start with one big piece of clay. And because I know I need a big rectangle, I'm starting with my clay already in kind of a rectangular shape, right? Rather than start with a circle like a ball and try and make a ball turn into a rectangle, I'd rather start with a kind of rectangle. It's going to make my life a lot easier than just starting with a ball of clay. So before I even start rolling, I'm pressing it down with my hands to get it even more close to what I'm hoping it turns out to in the end. And then now I'll get to pick up my rolling pin. I'm right there. I'm explaining why I'm doing this on cardboard or newspaper rather than the desk because it could get stuck. So with my rolling pin, I'm changing directions and I'm just going to work until I get a big old rectangular-ish shape, getting it all spread out. I want to get it the thickness of my finger, not too thick, not too thin, about finger thickness. Switching the directions definitely helps. So here I am. It's definitely closer to a rectangle, but I still need to trim it and keep it with some really clean lines. I've got my straight edge. I'm not doing any specific measurements. I just know I need a big rectangle. And when I'm cutting it out, I like to do the biggest rectangle that I can fit because I can always cut it smaller, right? It's a bummer when you make something too small. You kind of back yourself into a corner if you decide you need it bigger in the end. So I always like starting larger and then I can always cut it down. Cut out my shape. I'm going to get rid of the edges. Nice clean slab. Before we put this into a cylinder shape, we've got a couple steps that we need to do that again might ring a bell from the textured tripod and the darted cup. If you're wondering if it's the size is right, you can always test it. Like I'm just pulling up the sides and being like, okay, that's going to work, right? That's going to get me a cylinder. Just to kind of get a gauge on if I'm on the right track with the right size or if I need to trim it anymore. But that looks pretty darn good. So now that it looks good, we're going to work on those edges. And again, this is similar to some of the other projects that we've done, like the darted cup and the textured tripod. So those edges, I want to cut those down to a slant. I like to focus on the right side first. I don't know why. But you'll see I did this drawing here, and that shows us a side profile of what our slab looks like if I'm looking at it from the side. So I'm looking at it from the side, I've got this like right angle where that dotted line is. That's currently what it looks like. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to shave off that corner where the dotted line is and make it more slanted. See how it's like a slope? I'm going to pull my needle tool down the side of that piece of clay, and I'm just going to remove that top corner. I'm like shaving off the top right corner. We'll get that sloped effect. So here I go, holding my needle tool on an edge. It kind of feels awkward to do, to be honest, but I'm slicing off the top corner. I'm on an angle and it'll be sloped. There we go. These sloped parts are going to be where we scratch and score. So now if we're looking at the left side, here's another view of the left side. I'm going to shave off a corner, but instead of the top corner, I want to shave off the bottom one. So it's the same angle that I had my needle tool on the right. I'm going to keep that same angle. This one also feels kind of awkward because I'm shaving off the bottom corner of my slab. Sometimes teachers will have you flip the entire slab over, and you could get the same effect if you kind of like flip it upside down. But this seems to be a little bit easier for students to see the visual. It's like we're creating a parallelogram. The two sides are parallel, both slanted. So I'm shaving off the bottom corner. Again, it feels awkward. And that bottom slice is the bottom corner. And now what we're seeing on the paper is the exact same thing that we're seeing on my slab if we were looking at it from the side. Now I can carefully pick it up and round my slab and turn it into that cylinder, wrapping it around, getting it into the round shape. And then before I actually connect, I need to scratch and score on those slanted parts so that I get a really good grip, because we want it to be secure and lock it on there. So I've got my needle tool, and I'm going to scratch and score the heck out of those slanted pieces, make it like some Velcro. Depending on what your clay feels like, the clay in this video was super soft, but maybe your clay feels a little bit drier. You might want to add some slip or some water when you join these, just to kind of have some extra glue to make them stick together. Again, in this video, my clay is really soft. I don't really need any more glue to get it to stick, so I'm just going to scratch and score. Now that they're scratched and scored, I'm going to line them up and secure them. So I'm blending the outside, and then I'm also going to blend the inside just for extra security. Blending, smoothing, using my wooden modeling tool to reach down inside. I could use my finger too if I can reach, but sometimes the modeling tool is a little easier. Now that it's blended, it's connected, it's feeling pretty solid. What I want you to do is get your cylinder kind of lined up in that crease where you joined the slab together. I want that facing right in front of you. So 1 second. We're first going to talk about shoulders. That's what we're going to do next. I'm showing you the sample here. Shoulders are the next step. So before we start the shoulders, we're going to line up that crease where we connected it right in front of you, because we want to make sure that doesn't end up in one of the corners, because that part's really fragile. So right where my needle tool is, that's where I connected my slabs. It's right there, and now I have it right in front of me. I'm just going to make sure that that doesn't end up in the corners. I'm going to take my hands into kind of like a little claw, and I'm going to pinch the sides, the two whitest parts of the cylinder, the left and right sides, and I'm going to pinch them in and slowly fold it in. I'm not going to fold the whole thing, just parts of it, right? The outer edges are going to get folded in. I want to keep that center part open because that's where the neck and the head is going to be attached. But those edges that are getting folded in till they like sandwich together, those are going to be my shoulders. But I'm going to scratch and score the inside. Scratch and score the inside before I really blend them. Making some good Velcro. Getting the inside ready to go. Now I can press them together. Again, just the outer edges. We're keeping that opening in the middle. And I'm going to really smush and blend and solidify those two shoulders. Right now they look a little weird, right? They're kind of thin. I'm going to teach you in a second how we're going to make them look more round and realistic. See how it looks kind of flared, like it's getting wider at the top at the shoulders? That's perfectly fine. It's actually preferred, right? We actually want it to kind of get wider at the top. It'll make more sense later. So if we're looking at the shoulders in our fresh clay piece, those ones kind of look like wings. They're really narrow. And the ones on the bottom with my sample, see how they're more round and realistic? We're going to transfer, or we're going to convert our weird wing shoulders into those realistic round ones. So I'm going to stick my finger inside the neck, and it's going to go up against the top, against the shoulder, and it's going to push up. I'm going to apply pressure upwards. So my finger's inside, the inside finger is pushing up, and then I'm going to force and form that wing over my finger. So my finger is there as a support. It's there as a brace. And notice how I've got really plastic soft clay, and I'm able to just kind of push it around and form it around my finger, and it looks way more like a shoulder, but I still have to apply that pressure pushing up. Smoothing it. You can already see a huge difference between the two, right? On the left, it still looks like a wing. On the right, it looks much more rounded and realistic. Let's do the left side. One more side to demo. I'm going to stick my finger inside, apply pressure up, right? It's like lifting upwards my inside finger. And then on the outside, I'm going to force, smush, blend that wing down and change it into this rounded shoulder shape. Looks pretty good, right? Total transformation. I can work on smoothing and blending, trying to get the sides to match a little bit. And this is how it's going to look. That's where we're going to end for today. I'm kind of adjusting the chest a little bit. It was a little concave. But by the end of today, this is our great launching point for the body of our warrior.